acclaimed by my boss. Enemies to lovers, best friends, brother romance. The Billionaire's Forbidden Desires Trilogy. Book 1 by Zoe Appleton. Landing a job with my billionaire boss was a fantasy that just became real. I'm his assistant and he's my eye candy. He's tall, dark, and steaming hot. Little did I know that the grumpy brother of my best friend would steal my heart. In the shimmering world of luxury and secrets, I found myself entangled in his billionaire empire. I knew my billionaire boss was my complete opposite, but every fiber of my being wanted to be close to him. Finding myself in Zephyr's embrace, we kissed, we touched, and gave in to our desires. At that moment, I knew he was all I ever wanted and needed. But danger loomed in the shadow, unveiling a sinister secret that should have remained buried. Zephyr must rescue me from the bad guys that threaten my life. Will he save me and our love, or will I be left with a broken heart? Chapter 1: Zephyr. I sat at my desk, surrounded by stacks of paperwork and my computer screen flashing with notifications. Running a billion-dollar software company wasn't easy, but it was what I loved to do. I scrolled through the endless spreadsheets and contracts, checking and double-checking everything, making sure every detail was in order. I started this company about 10 years ago with my brother Connor. When we started, we had no idea that we would be getting into artificial intelligence or even dealing with business software. I really didn't understand the concept of sitting in front of a computer all day pressing buttons and shooting up bad guys and getting nothing out of it. It's wasted time. I was more of a productive kind of person. Every time I hit a button on my keyboard, I wanted it to be producing me money in one form or another. That is how I made my fortune. Over $3.5 billion in the span of 10 years. My big break came when I got my first client, and we started developing database-driven software for hospitals. Man, when you find a client that needs pinpoint accuracy in their software that must be updated on a yearly basis, that's where the money is. Not in a stupid plumber chasing a princess. Unfortunately, you couldn't tell my brother that. He was obsessed with developing those games. So, after about a year, we decided to part ways. I bought his part of the business for $125,000. It was a fair price since the business was still in its infancy, and we had only made $500,000. I felt that it was a fair and equitable agreement, however. After the second year, I had made over $10 million. One of the conditions of the buyout was that I needed to keep his best friend Harper on the payroll and give her a cushy job that pulled a paycheck, but didn't require her to write code or do any real heavy lifting. The two of them had been in a relationship for about a year or so, and he felt that she could use the experience and money. After a year of her working for me, tragedy struck, and my brother wound up dead. He was in the entertainment district at a bar called Ralph's. It was one of those dive biker bars that you always see on the evening news. He had gone there to talk to some girl about getting cocaine or heroin. My brother liked to party hard with the money I gave him. His interest in business really faltered. While there, he got into it with a biker who he believed shorted him. The man took out a knife and stabbed him in the stomach. It took 3 days for him to die. After that, I was never the same. I became grumpy and withdrawn. Every time Harper came to work, I could only see my brother and how she represented that. I don't want to say that I hated her, but I can say that we became more enemies than friends. Over time, we've come to an understanding, and our relationship has mended somewhat. I keep her around since she's a good worker, and has been honest as far as I've seen. I couldn't see our relationship going further than that. There is just too much bad blood between us. Enough dwelling on the past. Today should be a day of celebration and positive thinking. I need to focus on the launch of my next billion-dollar product and all the goodies I'm going to buy with my money. The next big project that I was preparing to launch was an artificial intelligence platform we named IntelliSight. IntelliSight was the culmination of years of hard work and innovation. We had poured our hearts and souls into developing this game-changing software, and I knew it was going to revolutionize the industry. With IntelliSight, companies would be able to make data-driven decisions, improving their operations and profitability. The platform's machine learning algorithms would analyze vast amounts of data, finding patterns, and generating insights that would be impossible for humans to detect. I leaned back in my chair, taking a deep breath and feeling a sense of pride wash over me. It wasn't just about the money for me. It was about creating something that could change the world. I mean, I was already a multi-billionaire that could buy anything he wanted. Now I wanted power, control, and the rush that came with it. I knew IntelliSight was going to do just that, but there was still so much work to be done. The lunch event was just around the corner, and we had to make sure everything was perfect. I reached for my coffee mug, taking a sip of the warm, bitter liquid. The caffeine jolted me back into focus, and I got back to work, determined to make sure that everything was in order for the big day. The sound of footsteps and the fabric of Harper's dress as she entered my office caused me to pause. Looking up, I could see that she was carrying a few file folders and a small thumb drive. Placing the folders on the desk, she held the drive up in the air between her thumb and forefinger, waving it in my face. "Here are the files for your afternoon meeting. Also, these are the latest code updates for the software. Peter in development wanted me to bring them to you personally for you to review before they are implemented on the test servers. He needs them first thing in the morning if you want to make your launch deadline." She stood there, looking at me in a stern manner. Glancing up at her, I gave her the side eye before returning to my typing. "That's fine. I will look at it before I leave for the day. Is there anything else?" I look at her for a moment before she shakes her head and walks out of my office. Reaching for the files, I flipped through them quickly to freshen up on the highlights and put them and the thumb drive into my briefcase, locking it up for security. Returning to my computer, I once again became lost in the final details of my epic launch.